To have everybody here, if you All right, check, check, check. 1, 2, check, 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, it is game week. Finally, football has arrived. Let's hear it. How about that? Woo! Finally, after all these months of waiting, it's finally here. Football has finally arrived, and what a great crowd we have here. This is a capacity crowd. You know, our hashtag this year was hashtag Legends Are Coming. And I know he was a Gator and I know he was a Gamecock, but we also appreciate and love guys who are taking the time to come share with us today. So let's give a big round of applause to Steve Spurrier right off the bat. Coach, they didn't give you that kind of welcome in Fayetteville a few years ago, did they? They didn't clap that much, not quite. It was booing, he said. It was booing. It's good. Hey, listen, let's go ahead and start off with a word of prayer. Gary Underwood, would you come up and lead us, please?
Thank you, David. We broke in War Memorial yesterday with Life Champs. It was great. We had a great day out there. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the day, the opportunity we have to gather together, and the excitement that we have going into the year. Lord, we ask you to just use us today in your service. We thank you for the food and ask you to bless it to give us strength to serve you. And Lord, a special prayer today for you to bless and help the folks that are in South Texas. Lord, we just ask all this in your son's name. Amen.
Yeah, it's a great point, Gary. You know, we can enjoy our lunch today and hear Coach Spurrier and think what those folks are going through. So enjoy today and appreciate the blessings that we have. And as Gary said, pray for those folks down there. Do want to thank all of our members, all of you who have joined. Thank you so much, whether it be $75 memberships, whether it be the ultimate, whether it be 50-yard line. We can't do this without your memberships and the sponsorships. I was just telling Coach Spurrier about that, and it's a combination. We got to have you joining those $75 memberships. Rex, the goal was to have between 400 and 500. My understanding was we've crested 400 after just 2 weeks, so we're on our way, and we couldn't do it without you, so thank you so much. We'll remind everybody to mute your phone. You can text everybody and say, hey, don't forget, if you can't make it, Coach Spurrier will be on 103.7 The Buzz. He'll be on the Touchdown Club website. He'll be on the Touchdown Club app. So if you can't get here, there's 3 ways you can hear Coach Spurrier. How about that, Coach? We got you covered. It's too many, he said. Let me go down our sponsor roll call, if you will. I want to thank, first of all, Twin City Limo for picking up Coach, and like they do every week. Couldn't do it without Greg Hatcher and Dale Butler. Thank you so much, Twin City Limo. Proud to be called the Little Rock Touchdown Club. The Little Rock Convention and Visitor Bureau is our sponsor there. Thank you, David Russell and Gretchen Hall. We appreciate you. CJRW, wait till you see the great things happening at War Memorial Stadium, and that's a combination of Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism and CJRW, one of the most talented advertising, marketing, PR groups, not just in Arkansas, in America. We appreciate their help on the Cliff Harris Award and all they're doing for the Touchdown Club and War Memorial. Thank you, CJRW. 103.7 The Buzz, Coach was on with Pat Bradley and Justin. I heard, Coach, that you told Pat Bradley you like to shoot the ball. You know, Pat Bradley never passed up on a shot. If he was going down the court, he had that in common with you. He liked that. But glad to have the Buzz here every Monday at the Touchdown Club. We appreciate their support. Arkansas Urology, the largest urology group in Arkansas, 17 physicians, 8 locations. Appreciate those guys and love to have them. Glad they're involved this year. Arkansas Urology. I mentioned War Memorial Stadium. Coach, this week we got 2 high school games tonight at War Memorial. 2 high school games tomorrow night at War Memorial. The Razorback game Thursday night. Catholic high school game Friday night. The Salt Bowl Saturday night with 35,000. That's all at War Memorial. So you're going to see this week how War Memorial can be a vibrant, great player here in Central Arkansas, and we're proud to have them as a Touchdown Club sponsor and excited to see this first week in action. They've done a great job in getting that stadium ready with some of the new additions they've had to it. Farm Bureau, Pulaski County. I do want to thank Shauna Hopkins and Stephen Reichard. There's a ton of agents here. If you see a Farm Bureau, Pulaski County badge on or something, ask them to give you a quote. They will take great care of you. Real service for real people. Thank you. Dairy Queens of Arkansas. I got a chance to drive by that Dairy Queen Rex. The number 1 Dairy Queen, 4,500 stars. Number 1 is in Sherwood. Their next location is going to be at University in 630, right around there, and it's going to be open in September. So remember, ask for the blizzard, right? So we're glad to have Dairy Queens of Arkansas with us this year. We appreciate them. Gen Wealth Financial Advisors. If you've got a financial question, retirement, Gen Wealth Financial Advisors are great folks. They're laid back. It's not stuffy. I'll give you all the advice you need to do. Take advantage of them. We're glad to have them as a sponsor this year as well for the first time. Big Red Stores as well just opened their 35th store in Central Arkansas. They've been in business for 20 years. The Hendrick brothers do such a great job. Last week we gave away some free cards. Not going to do it this week. Can't do it every week. It's got to be special, right? And as my buddy Roger Scott says for Big Red, if you don't live by a Big Red, you need to move by one. So thanks to Big Red Stores for being a sponsor of the Touchdown Club. Also, Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, our legal counsel for the Touchdown Club. If you can believe that, Coach Spurrier, we have a legal counsel for our Touchdown Club. It's a good thing to have in this day and age. They are the best, one of the oldest law firms in Arkansas. They've got a ton of lawyers here today, attorneys rather. I don't know if it's the correct word, either one. They're my personal attorney. Couldn't do it without them, and we appreciate you supporting the club. And also I wanted to mention Judy Henry, who is our point person for Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Her husband, Cliff, who I play football with us here today, and he brought his father. He's a third-generation lawyer. And I want to give a round of applause. Make sure he's listening. He's over eating. Mr. Henry, Bob Henry turns 88 this week. Let's give him a round of applause. We even have co-mingling of family sponsors. Jacob Lively is an attorney for Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, and his brother Blake is one of the owners of Dairy Queen. So it's all co-mingling. It's all co-mingling together. We don't mind. Collusion. Collusion is good with sponsorships here in the Touchdown Club. Do want to thank Crane Automotive, Arkansas's #1 automotive dealer. No one sells more cars. 17 dealerships go by there and say, I'm a Touchdown Club member. I want a good deal. And they should take care of you. Thank to the Crane family and Drew Dees. They better do that, right, Drew? They better. Yes, good deal there. Thank you, Crane Automotive, and the impact they have on Arkansas. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Wally Hall, Amanda Copley. Wally's been with us since year one, so it's been 14 years you've supported us. Amanda, thank you so much, and Wally, for having the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. We've grown with you, and we appreciate your support. Last but not least, Simmons Bank. I was just telling Coach Spurrier about the amazing success story of Simmons Bank. We've yet to have George Macris or Adam Mitchell or no-shows. Today we have Philip Tappan and Matt Redden, and we could not do this, guys, without Simmons Bank. They're the presenting sponsor. They stood on the shoulders of Lunch for Bridges here at Metropolitan, and they are bringing it home for the Touchdown Club. We couldn't do it without Simmons Bank, so make sure and try to give them some of your business. They're great people. Give a round of applause to them and all of our great sponsors here at the Touchdown Club. Of course, Mike Ditka comes to speak next week, so that's going to be another amazing legend. Do want to thank Mike Erie and his wife Deanne for sponsoring the Dan Hampton Award, which Coach Ditka will talk about next week. Want to thank the Embassy Suites for their great support. Matt Johnson, Fidelity Local 6, shooting all our high-definition streaming back there in the back, does a great job. Thank you, Matt. Dwayne Duncan. I told Coach Spurrier, I said, listen, Dwayne Duncan can shoot a ton of photos in a hurry. And, Coach, he delivered, didn't he? He got it done in a hurry. So, Dwayne, thank you for your hard work. R.J. Hawk couldn't be here for social media, so look at the TV star we have back in the back doing social media, Chris Kane from KATV. Give it up for Chris. He was early this morning. He's handling all our social media. At Little Rock LR Touchdown Club is our Twitter account, so follow him on at LR Touchdown Club. We appreciate you doing that for us today, Chris Kane. Also, too, I want the ladies who check everybody in and the men who help set everything up. I want you to stand. These are the folks who get here early, like at 9:30, set things up, check everybody in. Let's get, all ladies, gentlemen, stand up. That's right. Coach, we have a volunteer army. So that's the only way you can do that with 600 people here, so we couldn't do it without you. And how about Debbie Wyman, our executive director? Give it up for Debbie, doing a great job as always. All right. As you know, nobody recaps the weekend better than Rex Nelson, but we really don't have much of a recap. It's really a quick preview. Let's give it up, everybody, for Rex Nelson.
Thanks, David. David was using that term co-mingling. Of course we co-mingle. It's Arkansas. I'm thinking you're setting Coach up. There's going to be some joke about dating your cousin or something before it's all over. We are a state of fewer than 3 million people, but we're proud, Coach. It is football week. Football week in the South, not just in Arkansas, where football is really important. I thought I would start today by quoting very quickly from a piece of a story that I think you might enjoy that Rick Bragg, the great Alabama writer, did for ESPN, the magazine, back in 2012. Here's kind of what it means to us. He wrote, and it quotes our guest, by the way, "There will always be the occasional Utah or the rare Boise State in down years, but they are an aberration, like heat lightning. Somebody else might win a championship," says my Uncle John, "sneaking out through the back door. Don't get him started on Notre Dame. We know deep in our guts that it is not truly a birthright. We know that it takes blood and sweat to win in college football. We know that dominant programs are built by smart and relentless taskmasters like Nick Saban, who is so serious about the process, the science of it all, that when he allowed himself a big smile after winning a national championship, it kind of scared me, as if Billy Graham had done a handstand. When Steve Spurrier went to South Carolina, he was disheartened when he heard fans applaud the team after a close loss. Please don't clap, he told them, when we lose a game. I like that. Somewhere in this steamy landscape, Ole Miss perhaps, or Vanderbilt, a regular season loss is not the end of the world, and there are such things as moral victories and good college tries. Not Tuscaloosa, not Baton Rouge, not Auburn, not Athens, not Fayetteville, where they wear rubber pigs on their heads and yell "suey." Judges do that in Arkansas. Deacons, florists, even presidents. That was Rick Bragg writing a few years ago. Football season. All right, Thursday night, we got Florida A&M, of course, against Arkansas right here in Little Rock at War Memorial Stadium. We've also got Southern Arkansas University at Arkansas Tech. That should be a great game. Henderson at Harding. That should be a great game. Northwestern Oklahoma at Ouachita. That one may be moved up to Wednesday because the remnants of the hurricane are supposed to be coming into South Arkansas by Thursday. But games in Little Rock, Russellville, Searcy, and Arkadelphia. Then on Saturday, Arkansas State is at Nebraska. UCA is at Kansas State. Morehouse is at UAPB. Southwestern Oklahoma is at UAM. And Line plays Hendricks, two in-state teams. So you've got games Saturday at Pine Bluff, Monticello, and Conway. Line, the first game in the state, the only thing I have to wrap up. 6 interceptions. Line, in only its third year of football, defeats Missouri Baptist up in Batesville on Saturday night, 28-7. So we're off to a 1-0 start here in Arkansas for college football at least. So, again, college games in 7 cities this week. Little Rock, Russellville, Searcy, Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, Monticello, and Conway. You have no excuse not to get out and see a college game. And as David mentioned, catch some high school football. War Memorial Stadium this week again. This afternoon, 5 o'clock, Joe T. Robinson versus Hot Springs Lakeside. Right after that, McGee versus Baptist Prep. Tomorrow, beginning at 5 o'clock, Mayflower versus Central Arkansas Christian, followed by what should be a great game between Warren and Little Rock Christian. And then the Razorbacks, of course, on Thursday. Then on Friday, Catholic versus Sylvan Hills at War Memorial Stadium. On Saturday, the Salt Bowl, Benton versus Bryant at War Memorial Stadium. It's football time in Arkansas. Enjoy the week, everybody.
All right. That away, Rex. That away, deliver it. Good job. Good job, Rex. A couple special guests. You know, last week we had the governor. This week we have the mayor of Little Rock, Mark Stoller. Let's welcome Mark. Where you at, Mark? Welcome to the Touchdown Club. Thank you. Speaking of high school, a high school coach that Coach Spurrier referenced a couple years ago because of his unique style of not punting and all onside kicks all the time. I think he's still here. Please stand. Let's give him a welcome. He's going for his 4th state championship in a row. Kevin Kelly, Pulaski Academy. There he is. To my left, you may have noticed Betsy Broyles-Arnold, who is the daughter of Frank Broyles, and her daughter, Molly Arnold, the granddaughter of Frank Broyles, are here today for a special announcement. I've teased this a little bit. Of course, in addition to being the daughter and granddaughter of Coach Broyles, they're also the president and vice president of the Frank and Barbara Broyles Foundation. And they've been through a lot the last couple of weeks, as you can imagine, and I'm sure their gas tanks are low, but they wanted to make the trip down here because of this special announcement. It's one of the reasons Steve Spurrier is here today. So to make it official, every year, every couple of years, we try to make the Broyles Award stronger and stronger. In 21 years, that 42 assistant coaches that have come to Little Rock have become head coaches in 21 years. 42. And that's amazing. That's almost 50% of the coach. 27 are currently still active, including an NFL coach. Dan Quinn, coach, was a finalist when he was at Florida. And so the Broyles Award continues to grow, and now the foundation benefits from anything that the Broyles Award makes financially. And it's great to have Molly and Betsy locked in and invested with this because it's their award now. It's the foundations. It's the families. And what a great way to both honor Coach Broyles and honor both legacies, his football legacy and his legacy about giving support for caregivers of Alzheimer's patients. So we're excited to have him there, and I do want to make the announcement now. Steve Spurrier has agreed this year to become a selection committee member of the Broyles Award. So let's give a round of applause for that. Coach Spurrier, in just a minute, will tell some of the interesting connections he has to Coach Broyles, really, that he had done some research. So, Coach, we're honored to have you here, and that's one of the reasons you're here, I know. And Coach Broyles will be honored that you're on the selection committee. And one of the things Coach said, so we got to make sure Bob Stoops is on that selection committee. Well, we're announcing today that in addition to Steve Spurrier, Bob Stoops is also on the selection committee of the Broyles Award. So we followed your advice there, Coach. And last but not least, I recognize Wally. Wally was a past president of the Football Writers Association of America. Coach Spurrier, it's the most prestigious body of journalists that cover college football. There are about, I think, between 1,100 and 1,400 members. Well, today, the Football Writers Association of America, they've agreed to be a part of the selection process for the Broyles Award, in addition to the Steve Spurrier and Bob Stoops announcement. So we've got those two great Hall of Fame coaches and an unbelievable organization like the Football Writers Association of America. So that's worth a round of applause right there. A very exciting day for the Broyles Award. And I couldn't let them come all the way down to Little Rock without saying a word. Let's give a Little Rock Touchdown Club welcome and bring them up to the podium for just a minute. Betsy and Molly. Come on up, Betsy and Molly.
Thank you. Wow. Well, thank you, David. We are very, very excited to be here today and to represent my grandpa, Pop, as we all call him. My cousin's actually here. She's sitting over there with us, too. And to represent him and the Broyles Award and, of course, the Broyles Foundation today. Assistant coaches became very important to him when he was one and decided that he wanted to become a head coach by the age of 30, which he did. He also loved the state of Arkansas. It was his beloved state, and this was always his dream job. And for the last 21 years, this award has allowed us to bring in coaches from all over the country and to show them why we love this state so much, too. We had the incredible honor last night of having dinner with one of the all-time greatest coaches and players, Coach Steve Spurrier, who has never been to Little Rock before. We learned last night, along with some other really interesting things that I know he'll share with you here in a minute. Pop could not be there last night, which we were all upset about, and it's one of those things we were glad to be able to carry on that legacy and represent him. And one of the ways that we did that was by Mom wearing his Georgia Tech Letterman bracelet. And she has it on today. That was a way that we were able to keep him with us, and Coach Spurrier and my grandpa share an interesting piece of Georgia Tech history together. We also brought him with us today by bringing a replica of the 64 championship ring, and the award that year was given out by the FWAA. Pop was so incredibly proud of this award for a lot of reasons, and I know that he would be so honored by the new additions of Coach Spurrier, Coach Stoops, another icon in this game, and by the FWAA. Adding them to our team would mean the world to him, and it means the world to our family, not only to continue promoting the role of what assistant coaches mean to this game and to their team and as mentors, but also by being able to bring recognition to what Alzheimer's caregivers mean to their family and their team, and by being able to promote the resources and services that they need. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Jim Rasco is going to come up and introduce Coach Spurrier, but Coach, before he does it, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. Coach Spurrier is very much in demand. We could not afford what he would normally charge for a speaking engagement. But I know the reason he's here is for, that's right, is for Coach Brules and the Brules Award. So, Coach, when you decided, and I'm going to tell you, it wasn't an easy flight to get here. It's not very, and the fact that you took time to be here means a lot. And so when Coach is introduced, I expect an unbelievable, because I told him, I said, this crowd doesn't care that you coached at Florida. They respect you, and they love what you do, what you did for college football. But I just want to say thank you, because I know how busy your schedule is. And Jim Rasco is going to give you an introduction. And apparently, and I told Coach, I said, now, Coach, Jim Rasco is going to find out something. He's going to mention something about you that you probably hadn't heard in a long time. He said, David, I got an unbelievable memory. He said, I remember everything. And so Coach, we're just honored to have you here. We're flattered. You are a legend, and thank you for being here. Jim Rasco, will you come up and give him a typical Jim Rasco introduction?
All right. Today's guest speaker grew up as a multi-sport athlete in Johnson City. That's in northeastern Tennessee. But he first made headlines as a Little League baseball player for the Athens Giants in southeastern Tennessee. By the 1959-60 school year, he was a star for the Johnson City Junior High basketball team. His team went on the road to Sullivan, and he scored 14 points to lead his team to a 44-43 victory. In the summer of 1960, in the Babe Ruth League District Tournament, he pitched a three-hitter to lead Johnson City to a 19-2 victory over Morristown. And in September of 1960, as a 15-year-old 10th grader, before 5,000 fans, he hit a 53-yard punt to pin the Chattanooga Central High Purple Pounders deep into their own territory. By the time he had graduated from Johnson City's Science Hill High School, he had led the baseball team to 2 state championships by never losing a game as a starting pitcher and hitting over 400 as a shortstop. He had scored over 1,400 points in his high school basketball career with first-team All-State. And as a quarterback for the Hilltoppers, he was the only player in Tennessee chosen first-team All-America by Scholastic Magazine following the 1962 season. And he's been inducted into the National High School Hall of Fame. He was offered college scholarships in all 3 major sports, but he chose football, and he chose to play at Florida. I've read that he chose Florida because of its passing offense, the SEC Conference, the weather, and Coach Ray Graves. Now, about that weather, it's been written that he was especially impressed on his recruiting visit that he could play golf in March if he enrolled at Florida. I found an article in the Miami News in October of 1963 when he was playing quarterback for Florida's freshman team. After leading the Baby Gators to a 45-12 victory over Georgia's freshman team, the article went on to quote one of the Florida coaches as follows: "Since his father is a minister, Steve also comes in handy for leading the prayers when we're in an airplane flying through rugged weather." Okay, in 1964, he was Florida's starting quarterback. At the end of the season, he was named SEC Sophomore of the Year. 1965, All-SEC quarterback, first-team All-America by the Football Writers Association of America, came in 9th in the voting for the Heisman Trophy. In 1966, as a senior on October the 29th, he had what may have been the game of his career. He kept Florida unbeaten in the 7th game of his senior season, one of 8 times in his college career that he rescued the Gators from defeat in the 4th quarter. On 4th down, with 2 minutes to go and the score tied 27-27, he waved off the regular field goal kicker and stepped up himself and booted a 40-yard field goal to win the game 30-27. After the game, Auburn's coach, Shug Jordan, praised Spurrier's performance with the following quote: "He's just great. He runs, he passes, he punts, kicks field goals, directs the team. I don't know of anyone who deserves the Heisman Trophy any more than he does." Steve closed out his college career by passing Florida to a 27-12 victory over Georgia Tech in the Orange Bowl. He was a unanimous All-American quarterback, being named to all 10 All-America teams. He won the Heisman Trophy with more than twice as many points as the runner-up, Bob Greasy of Purdue. So that you can hear more from our guests and less from me, I'll now fast forward through the next 50 years of our speaker's playing and coaching career. He was drafted in the first round by San Francisco and spent 9 seasons with the 49ers. His most memorable game in the NFL was on November 19, 1972, when he passed for 5 touchdowns as the 49ers beat the Bears 34-21. In his 10th and final season as a player, he was quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At the age of 37, he became the youngest head coach in professional football as he took over the Tampa Bay Bandits in the brand-new United States Football League. He picked up 35 wins in 3 seasons before that league dissolved. In 1987, he became the head coach at Duke University. He had 20 wins in 3 seasons, named ACC Coach of the Year twice. All of you know about his 12 years at Florida, 122 wins, an SEC record of 82-12. I'll say that again, 82-12. His 1991 team won Florida's first ever SEC crown. Then after league expansion in 1992, his Gator teams represented the SEC East in the first 5 SEC championship games. His 1996 team won the national championship by defeating Florida State 52-20 in the Sugar Bowl. In 1996, Steve Spurrier became the first Heisman Trophy winner to coach a Heisman Trophy winner. The winner was Danny Werfel, who you'll remember was our guest speaker last September. After 2 seasons with the Redskins, Steve returned to the college ranks and closed out his coaching career with 11 seasons at South Carolina. At South Carolina, he had 3 consecutive 11-2 seasons and 3 straight top 10 final national rankings. Back in 1986, he was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame as a player. In September of 2016, Florida named their football field Steve Spurrier Florida Field at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. In January this year, he was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame as a coach. He's been married to his college girlfriend, Jerry, for over 50 years. They have 4 children and 14 grandchildren. He's currently the ambassador and consultant at his alma mater, the University of Florida. So now, from the University of Florida, number 11, the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I start talking here a minute, I know we're all saddened what happened down in Houston area and so forth. And as I was watching TV this morning, they gave out the number that we can all text $10 to the Red Cross down there in the Houston area. And so I'm asking all of y'all to do it right now. Let's get our cell phones out, okay? Let's do something for our fellow Americans down there that are really hurting in the Houston area. And I think the number is 90999. Yeah. Everybody agree with that? I thought I heard that today. Okay, 90999. Okay. If we could do that, I tell you what, we will have done something for some fellow Americans down there in the Houston and Southeast Texas area. I appreciate all of y'all doing that. I really do. Thanks. Okay. It's nice to be here in Little Rock. First time I think I've ever been here. Been to Fayetteville several times, 5 or 6 I think, but first time to Little Rock, and learned you're all Arkansas is playing here again. Thursday night, and so forth. So I know they used to play here a bunch in years back, but it's nice to be here. And of course, Coach Broyles is a big reason I came. David gave me a bunch of stuff about being nice to come, and I said, no, I'm coming because I know Coach Broyles, and I knew him extremely well, and he was one of the most respected former coach that I ever met, that's for sure, and was, I consider, a really good friend, and enjoyed being with Molly and Betsy last night, David, and sharing a bunch of Coach Broyles' stories. And when I looked after his passing and the funeral, and I read some more things about Coach, I realized how much we sort of had in common. We're both played all three sports in high school, and quarterback. He went to Georgia Tech. He was SEC Player of the Year. I was that also. He was an assistant coach at Florida and Georgia Tech before coming out here. I was assistant at Florida and Georgia Tech before going to Duke and then back to Florida and so forth. But we both loved golf. We weren't coaches that bragged so much about how hard we worked in the off season, but we enjoyed playing golf, and Coach was good. He was better than I was in golf. But we both have one national championship. That's enough. If you believe in, yeah, one was enough, and it's better than none. So win one is just enough. So, but we both had several conference championships and so forth. And family, Coach Broyles had a huge family. I've got 4 children and 14 grandchildren, so we have a lot in common. And he again was one of the most respected coaches out there, and I enjoyed being around him all the time at a lot of events, the American Football Coaches Association meetings. I'd see him at least once or twice a year, and would sit at his table at the College Hall of Fame dinners all the time. So really enjoyed asking Coach a bunch of things. I remember asking him one time, I think I was 47 or 8, and I said, Coach, what age were you when you resigned, retired, and so forth? And I think he said he was 51 or so. I said, 51? Gosh, I'll be 51 in 3 years or so. He said, I said, I'm not thinking about leaving that early. And he said, well, Steve, they didn't pay us the kind of money you boys are making now. I said, I'm not going to. But he went on to say he could be athletic director, and really he'd had 20 good years of being a head coach and so forth. And time to be athletic director and have a little bit more free time maybe in the off season and so forth. But anyway, he was one of a wonderful friend and mentor type coach that had been so successful and so well respected by all the young coaches coming up. But again, coming back to Arkansas, I really enjoyed watching Nolan Richardson's teams, the 40 Minutes of Hell. They were really something back in the mid-'90s there, 94, 95. They were good. And the year we won the national championship, 96, in March of 97, we get invited to the White House. Your governor, our President Clinton, was there, and he was on crutches right during that little time, but he was taking pictures with all of us and so forth, and he talked about the game we'd played against FSU to win the national championship and all the receivers, how fast they are. And he said, where's Ike and Riedel? I want to meet those two guys. I said, Coach, I think everybody on the team's here except Ike and Riedel. We had at least 80 guys show up to catch the plane up there, but Ike and Riedel didn't make it. So, but he was okay. He was okay with it. And we certainly enjoyed that as we went up there. But again, Jim, appreciate the wonderful introduction. I wish my wife was here to hear that. She might treat me a little more respect than lately. But no, just kidding. But he did not. Jim did not dwell too much on my pro career. I did have that one game, and I was fortunate to get 10 years in the league. I got 8 years in as a backup quarterback, which, as we know, is the best job in pro football. Best job. So hopefully I'm not beat up as bad as those guys that had to play for 10 years. But, yeah, it was 10 years, and obviously we all eventually get cut or retire, what have you. And we didn't make much money back then, so I had to get a job. And I was actually watching the Gators play after my pro days were over, living in Gainesville, where I lived in the off-season all the time. And I sort of said, you know what, coaching may be fun. It may be something I could maybe be good at. I'd been around some coaches I thought were pretty good and some not so good. And we obviously learn from the good ones and the bad ones as we go. So I was able to get into coaching. But my last year, I actually played in pro football. I played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the year we went 0-14. And that's why I left that out. That's all right. That was a record until the Detroit Lions went 0-16 back in 08. So they broke our record. So I used to say I quarterbacked the losingest team in the history of the NFL, so I can't use that anymore. But I did play, and I played in all 14 of those games, which is hard to do. Now, Coach McKay started 2 other guys. They got knocked out in the first half, and I finished up second half. They could not knock me out. I learned how to duck pretty good back in those days. But anyway, it was late in the season, and Coach McKay had the team in the squad room, and he said, fellas, we're losing games. We're losing because we're losing at the line of scrimmage. If you get beat up front, you lose that battle up front, you're going to lose a game. He said, whether it be high school, college, pro, lose up front, men. You're going to lose a game. And that's where we're losing. We're losing at the line of scrimmage. Football games are lost at the line of scrimmage. Looked in the back of the room, Howard Fest, sound asleep like he usually was. So McKay tried to wake him up a little bit. He said, Fest! And Fest said, yes, sir, Coach. Where are most football games lost? Fest said, right here with the Tampa Bay Bucks, Coach. That's all. Anyway. Yeah. He was correct on that one, wasn't he? But anyway, when I was coaching and so forth during the summer times, we would go to the Gator clubs, the booster clubs. Gosh, I did about 21, 22 every off season. Nowadays, these coaches, they work too hard to even attempt 20, 22 Gator clubs and booster clubs and so forth. But that's when we'd tell all of our little corny jokes. The football players at FSU got a bunch of free Nikes one year, and they were under investigation, so somebody started calling them Free Shoe U with FSU. But a writer, when I was in South Carolina, Chris Lowe came by one year before the season. He said, how you like playing Georgia the second game of the season? And he said, wouldn't you rather play them a little later? It's such a huge game in the Eastern Division. And I said, no, I like playing them second game of the season. He said, why is that? And I said, well, they got a rule at Georgia. All those guys that get in trouble during the summer, drinking, stealing, robbing, whatever they do, they have to miss 20% of the game. So they usually got 3 or 4 starters missing that second game. They're suspended. And they asked the Georgia AD, Greg McGarity, I said, what do you think about Spurrier saying he wants to keep playing you guys because you got a bunch of starters suspended that second game? He said, it's hard to get mad at him when it's the truth. But I don't think they got any guys suspended this year. That was maybe just right during that time. But really, when speaking at these type of events and so forth, most of you out there probably want to ask, how did you and your team win an AC championship at Duke? We won one, only one in the last 55 years. And how did you go to Florida? They had a bunch of ball players already there. And we actually started winning SECs right away. And actually, we won 6 in the first 7 years there. How did it all happen? So after my coaching days were over, I started looking back and said, how in the world did all this kind of stuff happen? Florida actually had 0 SECs for 57 years until 90. And we started winning them. And then, the mental part is something that I tried to do maybe differently than most of the other coaches. When I got into coaching, I read something that said, to be successful in life, you can do it like everybody else and try to outwork them, or you can do it differently. Do it a little bit different than your competition. Kevin, you know what we're talking about. A little different, don't you? He does it a little bit differently, Coach Kelly over there. So I did purposefully probably do that, wearing a visor on the sideline. I said, because nobody else was wearing one. Heck, I must be a little different, and so forth. So that was one thing I did try to do. But looking back, first of all, personally, you got to have an opportunity to be a coach. Somebody's got to hire you. Coaching is not a profession. You go to coaching college, graduate the 4.0 or something, and then somebody's ready to hire you. You got to know somebody to give you a chance. And Doug Dickey gave me the chance at University of Florida as an assistant coach, and then Pepper Rogers at Georgia Tech after we all got fired, and then Red Wilson at Duke University. And I took the job at Duke as offensive coordinator my third year. Really fortunate. Coach Wilson up there hired me, and a bunch of my friends said, Steve, you can't go to Duke and win. Nobody wins at Duke. You'll be fired in 2 years, and you'll be out of coaching. He said, you need to go somewhere like Georgia, Tennessee, or Alabama, or somewhere where they win. And I said, well, that's a good idea, but none of those schools were asking me to come coach. So I had one job, and that was at Duke University. Duke University back in the early 80s. And really, we did have a lot of good players there, especially on offense. It was hard to recruit defensive players that could really play all that well. But the offensive skill guys were really good there. We had a couple of 6-5 winning seasons, and the USFL was formed, and they first wanted me to come down there and be offensive coordinator. And I told the guy, I said, no, I've already got that job. If you want to hire me, it's going to be called head coach. So they named me the head coach, and I was 37 years old. And just to tell you about the coaching profession, there was 4 pro coaches, 37 years old. Les Steckel was at Minnesota Vikings. Jim Bates, San Antonio Gunslingers, and Joe Pendry, actually the next year with the Pittsburgh Maulers. And Les Steckel lasted 1 year, was let go, never a head coach again. Jim Bates was let go in mid-season and never got to be a head coach again. And Joe Penry lasted 6 games and was let go and never head coach again. And so somehow I lasted 30 years. So I know how fortunate I was. But that's the coaching profession for you right there. People don't last a long time. And I get asked a lot, how'd you last so long, and so forth. And obviously a lot of good players, and obviously trying to do things the right way. You got 2 bosses in college, the athletic director and the president. So I was always trying to stay on good terms with my 2 bosses, which we all should do. But again, to be successful, you got to have talented players. You got to have good players. You can have good players and not win a bunch, as we know, but you got to have the good players to start with and go from there. And then the leadership, you got to give them a good plan. Any organization, company, man, we got a good plan. Here's our direction. The guys from the top, the head coach, the assistant coaches, coordinators, got to be able to relay that message to the players. And then the players, it's really helpful when you're star players, like Danny Warfels. Are such good guys that they get all the publicity, and yet they pass it on and share it to their teammates. Danny Warfel never said I had a super game or anything like that. He was talking about how well the receivers and the offensive line, the defense played. So when those guys, your Heisman Trophy winners, are those type of teammates, you have a chance to achieve a whole bunch also. And then, the spirit of the team is extremely important. I'll talk about that briefly. In fact, I ran across a Bible verse just recently here that I really like. It's in Zechariah 4:6. You got to hunt Zechariah, most of us, but it's in the Old Testament back in there. But it says, not by might, not by power, but by spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. And I started thinking back on, especially my Duke team. How did we win? And spirit was number one. Spirit was number one. Those players just came together and maximized their talent that year of 1989. So, and then the last thing you need to have, you need to have some divine interference, divine appointments, they call it. Sometimes you just have to say, thank you, Lord, that happened. So that is that's how it all happened, I think, for me. And I'm going back to the Duke team because the first championship team I ever had was Duke of 1989. And I coached in the USFL, and the first couple of years there, the first year at Duke, we went 5-6, and we lost 5 of the games by 7 or less points. I called some bad games. We got beat at Maryland one game because we drive down the field, getting 2 tight ends, try to run the ball in like people think you're supposed to do. And we kicked a whole bunch of 3-yard field goals, and they scored 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions and beat us 23-22. So I took the blame for the guys. I said, I lost that game for our team. And guess what? Next time we get down on the goal line, we're throwing for touchdowns. So Georgia Tech came in the next week. Bobby Ross and his guys came in. And we went up and down the field, and we throwing TDs all over the place. Steve Sladen was our quarterback. And the announcer came on and said, Steve Sladen's just tied the ACC record for touchdown passes. So there's 7 or 8 minutes left in the game. So I went over to Steve. We were about 4 and 6, something like that. We weren't 3 and 5. I mean, we weren't going anywhere big. I said, I'm going to give you a shot at the record. But it's got to happen in the normal course of the game. We're not going to get down there and call timeouts and, fire at the end zone. So normal course of the game, we get the ball, bang, bang, bang. 2nd, 11, hits a little seam route for the 6th touchdown. And I think we ended up beating them 41 to 14 or something like that. We threw it in less than 2 minutes. So Bobby Ross probably wasn't too happy. He didn't say anything, but I shook hands with him. And a sports writer from Charlotte called the athletic director at Duke. And he said, Mr. Butters, what do you think about your football coach running up the score on Georgia Tech last week? That's not very sportsmanlike of your football coach to run it up on a bunch of nice young men playing their hearts out over there at Georgia Tech. What do you think about him running up the score? And Mr. Butters said, well, let me tell you something. I've been the athletic director here for 23 years. Nobody's ever accused my football coach of running up the score, and I like it. He said, I sort of like that. So that's how a lot of those things happen. And out here in 96 in Fayetteville, when Danny Wolf was throwing it all over the place, up top, they told me he needs 12 or 13 yards to set the school record. So I put him back in there, and he threw a couple of flare passes, nothing big, and then we took him out. So as I was leaving the field, some of the Razorbacks were really booing and yelling at me, which is good. I like that, to tell you the truth. Because in the Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun, one of the things in there, he says, if your enemies, your opposition, if they do not have anything negative to say about you, that means you've done nothing to disrupt their lifestyle. So when you're disrupting the lifestyle of your opponents and they're booing at you, that's a compliment. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I've always looked at it. But anyway, just going through my career and so forth and trying to do some things differently, I thought, the mental part of the game, I tried to study Vince Lombardi's Packers, Coach Bryant, Alabama, Boston Celtics. You talk about a bunch of winners back in the day. The Boston Celtics, they used to beat the Lakers all the time. I heard something the other day. Jerry West, the famous Laker, he was in, I think, 9 NBA Finals, and the Lakers only won 1 of them because the Celtics were beating them all the time in the finals. And it was amazing how they'd win. I mean, they'd just hang in there, and something good would happen for the Boston Celtics when they had their run. And then Coach John Wooden's UCLA basketball teams that won 10 out of 12. I've read most all his books and tried really to do a lot of things philosophy-wise the way he did it. And individuals, Jack Nicklaus, Chris Evert was one of the best tennis players in the world, and so forth. And so I tried to read all I could about those kind of people because they won all the time. And then I ran across an article this guy wrote about the characteristics and traits of winners, top performers. And he said almost anybody can acquire these traits. So I gave this to our team every year. We can acquire all these traits right here. And this is what winners and peak performers have. Pretty simple stuff: attitude, no excuses, positive, responsible for your job, effort, courage, determination, confidence, preparation. You got to prepare. And then transcend previous accomplishments. Don't get full of yourself. That is what had happened to the Gators right before I got there. And I was on a team. We probably got full of ourselves. When I kicked that field goal, Georgia kicked our butts next week. So, well, I was going to tell you, we probably got a little too full of ourselves. History. So we learned to understand that when you have a big win, you got to put it aside and not let it tear you down. And adversity. Of the 8 conference championships our teams won, 5 of them we lost 1 game. So 1 game does not knock you out of it. You can come back from 1 loss. And National championship teams are a lot like that also. And then a person that loves to compete. We try to get our players that love competing throughout the game. You don't even have to look at the scoreboard. If you're competing and trying to play your assignment the best you can, score will take care of itself. And then just keep on keeping on as persistent as you can. So we try to get all of them to do that, and that was very helpful. But the one big thing, before that 89 Duke year that we won the ACC, my wife found an article. It was called 7 Steps to Achieve Your Goals. And they talked about goal setting, how to set goals and how to do it. And I looked at it and started reading it and so forth, and I said, well, I'm going to do that this year. And what you do, you get your seniors and captains, I get 10 or 15 of them. I said, I want you guys to get together before the season. We're going to write down about 5 or 6 goals, and we'll see if we can hit them this year, okay? So players went out, we came back, I met with them, and all right, let's write them down. All right, one of them, winning season at Duke. Winning season's pretty doggone good. Second was go to a bowl game. We had not been to a bowl game in 27 years. That was a good goal. Beat North Carolina, in-state rival. Yeah, I've got to always put that on there. Win all of our home games. Yeah, one guy said, Coach, we play pretty well at home. We were actually 12-3 there the 3 years I was there. And then one kid, Bubba Metz, our center, said, Coach, we've been talking. We think we can win the ACC championship. And I said, oh, wait a minute now. You're supposed to set doable goals, reachable goals. And he said, yeah, we got Clemson, NC State at home, and we did that. And he said, we want to put it on there. I said, okay, we're going to put it down at the bottom. Don't tell anybody. I think we were picked 7th that year. We were picked 7th out of the 8 teams by the media. Of course, we know they don't know a whole lot. But so the season opens up. The season opened up. We lose at South Carolina. We lose at Tennessee. And we lost at Virginia. We beat Northwestern at home. And the Virginia game, they had a really good team that year. They had 8 possessions. They scored 7 touchdowns. And the other one, the field goal hit the upright. That's how we stopped them. They beat us 49-28. We could not force a punt. That was the team we had. That's the team that won the ACC. So we come back. I sort of made a comment to the media. Our chances of beating Clemson next week, probably 1,000,000 to 1. They were number 4 in the nation. Number 7 and 4-0. And so we came back, and I got my defensive coaches. I said, listen, we got to force a punt. We must force a punt. We're going to play 8. I don't care if you put 9 up there. I don't care if they break it or throw a 80-yard pass. We can't just let them stay out there and keep going. So we basically played a goal line defense the rest of the year. 8 guys up there all the time, sometimes 9. Our safety was the second leading tackler. He would come up with them. And but it gave those players a chance. It gave us a chance. And then so we got ready to play Clemson. We had one of those emotional meetings. You know, you can do an emotional one maybe once every 2-3 years, something like that, where all the guys say, we're going to give it the best we got this game and see what happens. We're going to play our hearts out, and whatever the scoreboard reads when it's over, we'll take it, as long as everybody's giving all they got. So we go into the game. It was sort of a rainy day there, rained off and on a bit, and nothing good was happening for us. We were down 14-0 at half, and came in at halftime. Guys are playing hard. Hey, keep hitting them. You guys are playing hard. You're playing hard. But a couple things happened in the first quarter. Our little tailback, we had a kid that could run draw plays, got the wind knocked out of him. We put in the backup guy. We knew he was a good player, but we didn't know how good he was. He was about 6'3", 220, and he was running over guys, through guys, and just knocking Clemson guys backwards. And that brings spirit to the team. And then we had a linebacker got hurt, so we put another backup kid in, and they couldn't block him. He ended up making 13 tackles that day, a guy named Derek Jackson. So all of a sudden, 2 injuries got us 2 good players. And Randy Cuthbert, the running back, he went on to run for about 75 yards that day, but he gained over 1,000 and only started 6 games the whole season. That's how good he was. So anyway, we're down 14-0, and nothing good's happening. And we get the ball in the third quarter, and we get sacked, get a penalty. It was 3rd and 30. So when you're coaching at Duke, it's 3rd and 30. You're going to throw it 30 yards. Okay, we're not going to hand off, and we're going to try to make it somehow. So, the pass route where all 4 receivers run down the field. So I sent that in, and the week before we told the outside guys to run like 18-yard comebacks, and the inside guys, they just took off. So the quarterback thought the guy on the left was going deep. Well, he ran a comeback. So Billy Ray, our quarterback, he went back, and he threw a beautiful 55, 60-yard pass. And the only guy going for it was the Clemson DB. Our guy had run his comeback. And the Clemson DB caught it going toward our goal line, full speed. He catches going full speed. So it takes him a while. He goes to midfield and decides he's going to stop, change the ball, and go back the other way. And he dropped the ball on about the 22-yard line. And our receiver, Darrell Clements, is hustling around and dives on it on the 22. We got a 60-yard gain out of this play. We get to the 5-yard line, and we just run an off-tackle play. And you know how the linemen are there a minute, and then all of a sudden they just go over the goal line? That's what happened. Randy Cuthbert got behind our guys. So now it's 14-7. And get it back, goes 14-14. And we tie them up, and then they had a kid kick a 50-yard field goal, Chris Gardocki. So we're down 17-14, but we put a drive together late in the game there, and we're on the 8-yard line. And I called a pass that had no chance, but the fullback, we thought they were blitzing. They weren't. So the fullback checked. He checked to block his guys. Nobody blocked, so he went out over the middle. And I was looking around, and there was nobody. He was standing on the goal line, nobody near him. And I said, maybe they'll screw up that defense again. So we called a play where it says hit the back, and sure enough, he caught it and backed in the end zone. So we're up 21-17, and still 4 minutes. So Clemson had some time, and we got them to where it's 4th and 12, and they used their last timeout. So our defensive captain George Edwards is over there, and I'm saying, George, 4th and 12, we stop them, we win the game. You think we ought to play prevent, at 5 short, 3 deep, and try to make them throw underneath or what? He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, Coach, we've been blitzing every play the whole game. Why would we change now? And he was exactly right. I said, yeah, rush them all. That shows you players are sometimes a lot smarter than us coaches. And we hit the quarterback. The ball fell to the turf. And so we got a 21-17 win. But what was most important is that team won the rest of the games with that spirit. All right, now we know we're capable. And now we know. And we went on. And I remember I was at the press conference with about 3 games left. And one of the writers said, Coach, do you guys realize if you win the next 3, you're ACC champs? And I said, well, we know where we are. We weren't talking about it publicly or anything, but we know where we are. And we got to try to beat Wake Forest this week and then NC State, North Carolina. But anyway, our players, they knew where we were, and we got ready to play every game. And somehow we won the ACC championship. And I'm convinced that goal setting and having that in the back of our minds was a big reason we did it. Having that goal, hey, we can still hit that goal. And the team completely changed. The running back, Randy Cuthbert, gained over 1,000 yards. And Clarkson Hines, we had a good receiver, and defense played their hearts out every game. So anyway, we do that, and then the Florida job opened up that year. And fortunately, we was able to get the Florida job right after that. And we inherited excellent players. They were already there. The year before, they were 3rd in the nation in defense and had Emmitt Smith, best runner in NFL history. And they went 7-5 with that team. So all this team needed was just a little direction. A quarterback, Shane Matthews, was already there. He didn't even get to play the year before. But Shane became the SEC Player of the Year his first 2 years. And then we won a big game at Alabama. I was telling David and everybody last night, those early, most every time we won the SEC, we still had to beat Alabama. Had to beat Arkansas in 95, but all those other years had to beat Alabama just like it is today. And First game we played them was the second game that I coached. Our coaching staff was there in '90 at Tuscaloosa. We went up there on a hot day. I think it was a 1 o'clock game, second game of the year. They had that AstroTurf. We were down 10-0 at half. And, just told the guys, hey, let's just keep playing, see what happens. And some stuff started happening. Our free safety got 3 interceptions. Had the game of his life, Will White. Shane threw one out of the end zone about 70 yards to Ernie Mills. And then in the middle of the fourth quarter, we blocked a punt. Recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. The Florida Gators blocked a punt against Alabama, not the other way around. And we held on, and we beat them 17-13. And the local sports writer in the Gainesville Sun, he said, this was an unbelievable, amazing day of football yesterday in Tuscaloosa. He said, Alabama played like Florida, and Florida played like Alabama. Alabama found a way to lose, and the Gators just hung around and made just enough plays to beat Alabama. And, when you have wins like that, and then they can be contagious and really keep it going with the teams we had. So those were 2 big ball games down there, and then after that, obviously, we're able to recruit extremely well, and those players love playing in the swamp. They love playing down there, and we had a lot of good teams. Didn't win all the championships every year, but we were in the hunt. So that was sort of rewarding there. There's a lot of quotes that I used to use a bunch of. Also, I'll sort of close with these. That, in fact, I'm going to be lecturing a class at Florida this year. If any of you want to drop by, I'm going to do 4 hours. I'm going to do 4 hours of a class. I think they've already got about 75 or 100 signed up. But anyway, it's going to be called Winners and Losers. Winners and Losers Act. And I think on the front, I'm going to have one of Coach Lombardi's quotes. Winning is not a sometime thing. It's an all-the-time thing. You don't do things right once in a while. You do things right all the time. Winning is a habit, and unfortunately, so is losing. Winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. Aristotle once said, we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellent is not an act, but simply a habit. Danny was here, last week? We were talking before the Florida-Georgia game last year, and we were talking about how we practiced. And he said, Coach, we threw the ball for 2 hours every day. We'd throw it in the air. We'd throw the receivers. We'd throw pass skill. We'd throw this. He said, we threw for about 2 hours every day. Did you know that? I said, yeah, I guess we did. And maybe that's why we were pretty good at it. Repeat. You got to repeat what you want to do in life if you want to be good at it. And obviously, his receivers and Danny and those guys were really good, and they did it all the time. So those were 2 I liked. Another one, Sir Francis Drake, the explorer, said, every mission has a beginning and an end, but only a mission finished to the very end yields the true glory. And I'm sort of fortunate now that 25 years after coaching at Florida and so forth, that we're able to sort of relive those championships. We actually had a reunion this year. About 75 of the guys came back from all 12 years, and we'll continue to do that because when you win a championship, it is for a lifetime. Coach Broyles, that 64 team, Jerry Jones talks about it about every time he's on TV, it seems like. That's 64 championship. And those guys, it's a memory of a lifetime. And gosh, if you can get one, just say a lot of thank you, Lords. So that's what I've said a whole bunch throughout my career. Okay. All right. All right, David. Any questions?
I'm going to do the first question. We'll just do a couple. Coach, you were talking about being different as a coach. Coach Bielema has come into Arkansas and sort of had a different mindset, but making sure they run the ball. Running the ball is a priority. They do spread it around a little bit. Have you been able to watch much Arkansas football and that theory, and do you think it can work in the SEC in your opinion?
It worked against Florida pretty well last year. I was there for that game. No, I don't. I don't watch Arkansas that much. To tell you the truth, you need to You need to ask somebody else. Jim tell you about that. But I do like. I do think there's a place still in football for the quarterback to get under center and hand it off to the tailback and toss sweep and this, that, and the other, instead of always being in the gun and running those sideways plays. But there's all kind of ways to do it. But I haven't watched Arkansas enough. But I like Brad. I think he's doing a good job. I wish Kurt Botkin was here coaching with you people. Kurt was with me 5 or 6 years at South Carolina. Excellent linebacker coach, excellent recruiter, and played here at Arkansas. So hopefully he can get back someday. All right, yes, sir.
From reading your book, Coach, you mentioned about Robert Cade experiences with Gatorade and the Florida football team. Can you elaborate on what that was like going through that as a team?
Oh, yeah, back in the 60s when Gatorade was being invented, the scientist, the professor there at Florida invented it, as everybody knows. And we had, tryout stuff early, and he kept mixing it around. So it didn't taste very good early until I think one player said, "Why don't you put a little Kool-Aid in this stuff, Doc? Put a little Kool-Aid in it." Oh, okay. And that's all we needed. But he had... he knew what he was doing as far as replenishing the body, loss of sweat, water, and so forth. So we were sort of the guinea pigs, but it didn't taste that bad. And we'd drink it on the sideline. Fortunately, we had a good year that year, so that helped him sell a lot of Gatorade. If we'd gone about 4-7, I don't know if Gatorade... It all comes back to winning, as we all know. Yeah. People say winning's not everything. Until it's but when it gets back down to it, that's what we're all trying to do. Yes, sir. Okay. No, they were sort of messed up. They were going out of the single wing. Bowden White had left. They had an interim coach actually right then. And Doug Dickey actually came up there, I think, in '64. I think he became Tennessee's coach and started winning right away. But, yeah, Ray Graves in Florida, Coach Graves, he's actually from Tennessee also. So he was a big reason I got a chance to go down there, opportunity to play. Somebody told me that people up north were saving their money their whole life just so someday they could live in Florida. And he said, "Steve, you could go to school down there for free." I said, "Sounds good to me."
Steve Spurrier, everybody. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate that. Don't forget Mike Dicka next Tuesday, not Monday. Mike Dicka next Tuesday. Please RSVP on the website or the Touchdown Club app. Thanks for being here, everybody.